ਸਤਨਾਮ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ। ਡੰਡਾਉਤ ਬੰਦਨ ਅਨਕ ਬਾਰ, ਸਰਬ ਕਲਾ ਸਮਰੱਥ। ਡੋਲਨ ਤੇ ਰਾਖੋ ਪ੍ਰਭੂ, ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇ ਕਰ ਹੱਥ। ਡੋਲਨ ਤੇ ਰਾਖੋ ਪ੍ਰਭੂ, ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇ ਕਰ ਹੱਥ। So let everyone come together and say the Bakshi Hui Fateh given to us by the 10th Master, Tan Tan Sri Guru Gobind Singh Ji Sache Padshah। तो आओ ਗੱਜ ਵੱਜ ਕੇ ਬੁਲਾਓ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀਓ ਹੁਣ ਚਾਰ ਸਾਹਿਬਜ਼ਾਦਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਧਿਆਨ ਧਰ ਕੇ, so within your mind focus and picture the four sons of Guru Gobind Singh Ji, and now from the bottom of your hearts put your hands together and say Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So we're going to spend a little time, about half an hour, going through the history, going through that period of 1704 in the midst of cold, the month of December and the month of Po. A Mahapurkh said, Sangat Jiyo ekagar chit hoke and single-minded, completely focus and take your minds back to the times of Guru Gobind Singh Ji Sache Padshah. The four Shahzade, they sacrificed their lives. But all we need to do today is just sacrifice 1 hour of our times. Ek ਘੰਟਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਸਮਾਂ ਉਸ ਸ਼ਹਿਬਜ਼ਾਦਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਚਰਨਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਲਾਉਣਾ ਅੱਜ। A Mahapurkh said very beautifully, ਇੱਕ ਮਹਾਪੁਰਖ ਨੇ ਬਚਨ ਕੀਤੇ ਤਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਖਿਆ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਵਿੱਚ, in this life, everything that you see with your eyes gets old. ਜੋ ਵੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਅੱਖਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਆਉਂਦਾ, ਇੱਕ ਦਿਨ ਉਹ ਚੀਜ਼ ਪੁਰਾਣੀ ਹੋ ਜਾਏਗੀ. From something obvious to materialistic things. ਨਵੀਂ ਗੱਡੀ ਲਈ ਤਾਂ ਥੋੜੇ ਸਮੇਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੀ ਉਹ ਗੱਡੀ ਪੁਰਾਣੀ ਲੱਗਣ ਲੱਗ ਪੈਂਦੀ ਆ. So within only a few months buying a new car, it seems old to us. Somebody buys a new house, within months or maybe within years, that house starts to seem old. ਉਹ ਘਰ ਵੀ, ਨਵਾਂ ਘਰ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਲਿਆ ਤਾਂ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਇੱਕ ਦਿਨ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਪੁਰਾਣਾ ਲੱਗਣ ਲੱਗ ਪੈਂਦਾ. And ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆਪਣਾ ਬਚਪਨਾ ਆ, our childhood, when our childhood enters our youth, ਜਦੋਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਬਚਪਨਾ ਜਵਾਨੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ ਜਾਵੇ ਤਾਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਬਚਪਨਾ ਪੁਰਾਣਾ ਲੱਗਣ ਲੱਗ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਆ. When from childhood we enter our youth and our childhood starts to seem old, and from our youth when we enter old age, ਆਪਣੇ ਬਚਪਨਾ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਬਿਰਧ ਅਵਸਥਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਸ ਜੀਵ ਜਦੋਂ ਪੁੱਜਦਾ ਹੈ, this mortal, when he reaches that status of birth avastha, of old age, in Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj Ji's Bani says that avastha, that status comes when we hit the age of 60. Kanda Pav, when you get to that old age, even your youth looks old. ਤਾਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਇਨਸਾਨ ਦੀ ਮੌਤ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਆ, or when that person dies, then ਸੱਜਣੋ everything becomes old. ਜਦੋਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੀ ਮੌਤ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਸਭ ਕੁਝ ਪੁਰਾਣਾ ਲੱਗਦਾ. ਖਿਆਲ, concentrate on this, what this Mahapurkh said. ਸੰਗਤੇ ਐਨ ਇਕਾਗਰ ਚਿੱਤ ਹੋ ਕੇ, ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਕਰਦਾ ਬਸ ਐਨ ਇਕਾਗਰ ਹੋਣਾ. ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਬਸ. Try and listen to this really carefully. This Mahapurkh said everything will get old one day. When your breaths come to an end, when maut enters, everything will seem old. From your youth, when you enter old age. From your new houses, one day, everything seems old. And this Mahapurukh said, with so much love, with so much passion, उस महापुरख ने आख्या, कहते संगत जियो सज्जनों, कहते सब कुछ एक दिन पुराना हो जाएगा, पर the story of Guru Gobind Singh Ji's sons will never get old. पर ਜਿਹੜੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਚਾਰ ਪੁੱਤਰਾਂ ਦੀ ਕਹਾਣੀ ਆ, ਜਦ ਤੱਕ ਇਹ ਧਰਤੀ ਰਹੂਗੀ, ਜਦ ਤੱਕ ਇਹ ਅਸਮਾਨ ਰਹੇਗਾ, ਜਦ ਤੱਕ ਇਹ ਧਰਤੀ ਰਹੂਗੀ, until the sky is there, until this earth is here, the story of Guru Gobind Singh Ji's sons will never get old. And yesterday was the Dahada of Sangrant, and Guru Arjan Dev Ji Sache Paatshah Maharaj Ji blessed us in the Baramahada part. Pok tukhar na vyapai, kant milya har na ho. And the literal translation of this Pankti, Pok, Maharaj is referring to the month, which we know as Po. Tukhar means cold, tukhar means ice, something solid. Maharaj is saying, in this month, in Poda Mahina, Pok tukhar na vyapai. Vyapai means when something cannot come near you. Maharaj is saying, in this month, for those people, even though the weather, the temperatures may seem so cold, but Maharaj says, Pok tukhar na vyapai, kant milya har naho. Kant means, but those people that are close and have embraced the Lord, har naho, the beloved Lord. Naho means beloved. That beloved Lord, the ones that have embraced that Lord close to them, they said those people, Pok tukhar, that cold will not afflict them. That cold will not affect them in this month. And to share a sakhi, to share a little story, even though the Mahapurukh, Baba Gurudev Singh Ji Maharaj, they have said to the Sangat not to speak of them on stage, but Sangat Jiyo, if the sun says to someone, if the sun says to somebody that try and hide the rays of light that are coming out from me, and Babaji is such a Mahapurukh that they have such rays of light coming out of them, their glory and their praises are hard to hide. And linking it with this month, Pok tukhar na vyapai, kant milya harai. Those who have embraced the Lord in this month, the cold cannot affect them. Going back about 15 years ago, I remember knowing nothing of Sikhi, a meeting my dear brother at one of my Mamaji's houses when I was about 15 years old. And Ajay Singh, who is sitting in the Sangat today, he may not remember this, but for some reason, I still never forget this story that he told me. We're sitting in the house of one of our uncles, and he did Sangat of Nanak Sar, and he started telling stories of Babaji. And I remember, this is the first story that I remember being told about this Mahapurukh. And I remember Jeb Singh saying that there's a Mahapurukh in the country of Canada, in an area called Winnipeg, when the temperature had dropped down to -20 or -30, that Babaji was still standing outside in this ice, in this snow, with Ganchi Chapala on and just a thin chola without a jacket. How is this possible? Anybody else that stood out in this freezing cold, if they had any part of their body, any part of their hair exposed, it would take approximately 1 to 2 minutes for any part of the hair that was exposed, whether it was their eyebrows, to turn into ice. And the locals over there of the Canadians approached Babaji and said, "Sir, please take our jacket, you must be so cold." So you imagine now being minus 20, being only in a kurta, having no shoes, no socks, being in chapalan, standing outside in this temperature. And who can do this? Who can be away from their body? Who can be away from the heat? Who can be away from the cold? Guru Arjan Dev Ji said, Kant is your neck. Kant Milya is when you meet. Kant Milya Har is the Lord. Naho is the beloved Lord who has embraced the beloved Lord. Jara Saas Gras, Satnam Sri Vaheguru. Jara Har Saad Nal Vaheguru Japdaya. Jina Saas Gras Na Bisre Har Nama Man Mant Tan Se Nanaka Puran Soi Sant. Guru Granth Sahib Ji's Bani. They're saying, who is a Puran Sant? Who is a complete Sant? That person who for not even one breath going in or going out, that separates from Vaheguru, from Akal Purkh. And going back into our history, who else was able to do this? Mata Gujar Kaur, Mata Gujri, the mother of Guru Gobind Singh Ji, and the two Shahzade, the two small Shahzade, they were put in a cold store in the Tarti of Sarhand for 3 nights, for 3 days. But they were in Chardi Kala, they were in high spirits. They were sharing the stories, Har Kiyan Katha, Kahaniyan, Gurmeet Sunaiya. They were sharing the stories of the Gurus, and the cold didn't affect them. So Sangat Jiyo, Hey Guru Ramdas Ji Sache Padshah, O Guru Ramdas Ji. Guru Ramdas Ji was the 4th Guru. O Sodhi Sultan Sache Padshah, O Guru Ramdas Ji Padshah, Asi Aap Ji da Karj Kisse Tarah, how can we ever repay your debt? Why Guru Ramdas Ji? A Mahaprabhu said, how can we Guru Ramdas Ji, O Guru Ramdas Ji, how can we ever repay your debt? Hey Sodhi Sache Padshah, Hey Guru Ramdas Ji, Asi Tada Karj Kidda Atarunge. How will we ever repay your debt? Why did this Mahaprabhu say this to Guru Ramdas Ji? Karke Guru Ramdas Ji da Puttar, Guru Ramdas Ji's son, Guru Arjan Dev Ji Shaheed. Guru Arjan Dev Ji, the first martyr, who sat on the Tatti Tavi. Guru Ramdas Ji ne pehla Bani uchari, tan man, kaat, sab arpi, which Agni, aap jalai, tan, my body. Guru Ramdas Ji said, tan, man, mind, tan man, kaat, cut it into pieces, into small pieces. Aha, suno Guru di Bani. Pehla Guru ne Bani uchari, fir Guru ne aap arth kitte. This is amazing. First Guru wrote the Bani, but then he did the arth, he did the translation. How? Physically. Not like me, he didn't sit here like this and try and explain and translate the Gurbani, but he physically translated the words of the Gurbani. First he said, Tan, man, kaat, cut this body and mind into little pieces. Tan, man, kaat, sab arpi, I give it all to you. Oh Lord, I give it all to you. Tan, man, kaat, sab arpi, which Agni, aap, jalai. I'll cut my body into little pieces, then I'll put it into fire, which Agni aap jalai, and I'll burn it for you. Oh Vaheguru, oh Guru, oh Guru Granth Sahib Ji, this is what I will do for you. And Guru Arjan Dev Ji did this. How will we ever pay your debt of Guru Ramdas Ji? Oh Guru Ramdas Ji, tade puttar ne Guru Arjan Dev Ji ne sat on the Tatti Tavi and gave Shahidi. And then your potra Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji, your Padpota Guru Tegh Bahadur Maharaj Ji. Your Padpota means your great grandson. So we're talking to Guru Ramdas Ji. Imagine Guru Ramdas Ji. Guru Ramdas Ji say, oh Guru Ramdas Ji, first your son, he sacrificed his life. And then your great grandson Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj. And we need to know this history so we can understand how the Shahzade was able to do this. How somebody at the age of 5 was able to go in Sarhand, in that kachari, in that court of the Mughal Empire and say to Wazir Khan, where everybody was doing salam to Wazir Khan, where everybody was bowing down to Wazir Khan, and that 5-year-old who was born in 1699 in the year of the Amrit, Baba Fateh Singh, Guru Gobind Singh Ji's youngest son, how did he have that power? Where did it come from? It came from Guru Ramdas Ji. And Baba Fateh Singh went into that darbar and said to Wazir Khan, the thing that we don't say to each other today. What did Baba Fateh Singh say? He said, Waheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji ki Gaj Aj ke Sangat Ji. Aida nahi, Baba Fateh Singh ne Fateh gajai, तो बंदा बहादुर सिंह बहादुर ने उन्हें जाके उस धरती दी फतेह कीती. Baba Fateh Singh, he said the first fateh at Sarhand. Why did he say Guru? Why did he say the fateh there? Because he knew one day that Banda Singh Bahadur is going to come onto this dharti and put a Nishan Sahib, and he's going to be victorious because Guru Gobind Singh Ji is going to send him to this place. So Gajawajke, imagine that 5-year-old going into the darbar, that fateh, and saying to Wazir Khan, Waheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji ki. A 5-year-old, Sangat Jiyo, a 5-year-old. Coming back to Guru Ramdas Ji, Guru Ramdas Ji's great grandson, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, the 9th Guru, who we sat in remembrance of 2 weeks ago. That Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, who gave their cease, and we went through their stories. But how did Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji get to such a state that they were able to do this? We went through their stories. I want to share with you something about their mahal, about their wife. Mahal means wife. About Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji's wife, who is Sangat Jiyo, Mata Gujar Kaur, first known as Mata Gujari. Mata Gujari, Tan Eho Janani. Tan Eho Janani. Janani is that woman. She was blessed. Such a blessed soul, Sangat Jiyo. Why? Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, after their marriage, Sangat Jiyo, after Naume Pacha, after the 9th Guru was married to Mata Gujari. Mata Gujari, when Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji went into meditation in the Dharti of Bakala, when Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji went into meditation in the Dharti of Bakala, you know, Mata Gujari, this is for you, for my sisters, for my mothers, for my daughters, to think about what such a woman in our history, our heads should bow down to her. Guru Tegh, she's been married, and every woman has a thought, has a wish, has a desire for a child. Well, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, so detached from the world, he sat in a cave meditating for 22 years, Sangat Jiyo. 22 years, think about it. Mata Gujari stood outside of that cave serving her husband for 22 years. Not once did she complain, not once. And I think about myself sometimes. If I go away for 5 minutes, I hear the screams. Sangat Ji, 22 years, Tanasi ho Mata. She was blessed. She stood outside the cave. She would get the food, prepare that food, and take that thali in for her husband. She didn't just see him as a husband, she saw him as a Rabb, she saw him as the Guru. And she would bow in front of him. 22 years she served him whilst Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji meditated. But 30 years she waited for a child. 30 years. When Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj came out of Bhakti, Jado Guru Gaddi mil gayi, when Guruji was given the throne of the Guru Gaddi. I'm not going to go into too much detail of the history because we'll be here for a long time. But Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji still had no desire, still had no even thought of a child. But their mother, Mata Nanaki, who was with them from the very beginning, through thick and thin. Mata Nanaki, so remember these names. Mata Nanaki, which is the wife of Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji, the 6th Guru, which is the mother of Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Maharaj. Mata Nanaki. We've got 2 Nanakiyan in our history. There's Bibi Nanaki, which was Guru Nanak Dev Ji's sister, and there's Mata Nanaki. ਉਹ ਵੀ ਧੰਨ ਸੀਗੀ ਸਿੱਖੋ, ਉਹ ਵੀ ਮਾਤਾ ਧੰਨ ਸੀਗੀ ਜਿਹਨੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਤੇਗ ਬਹਾਦਰ ਜੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਵਰਗੇ ਨੇ ਸੁਪੁੱਤਰ ਨੂੰ ਜਨਮ ਦਿੱਤਾ। And Mata Nanki said, when 30 years had passed, it was about 29 years had passed, and said, Teg Bahadur, she said, Tere pita ne tere naal ek vachan kitta siga ek samay. Said that your father promised me something one day. Guru Har Gobind Singh Ji, the 6th Guru, Mata Nanki, is reminding Guru Teg Bahadur Ji after 30 years of being married, saying that your father promised me something one day, that you will give birth to such a Jodha, to such a warrior one day that will take the heads of the Mughals. That jada Jodha banuga, ek bali banuga. And Guru Teg Bahadur Ji said, Mata Ji, jo is tarah siga pehla bachan dasna siga. Mata Ji should have told me first. And Guru Teg Bahadur Ji di jado shahidi aayi na, when the day of Guru Teg Bahadur Ji's Teg, Sangat Ji, Teg means the sword. Teg Bahadur, Bahadur means a warrior. And when Guru Teg Bahadur Ji was sitting in the Tarti of Delhi, and when they were going to be martyred, when the Mughals were going to take Guru Teg Bahadur Ji's cease off, what the Mughals were doing were, they were sharpening the sword, the Teg, and they were shining the sword. ਜਿਹੜੇ ਜ਼ਾਲਮਾਂ ਨੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਦਾ ਸੀਸ ਜੁਦਾ ਕਰਨਾ ਸੀਗਾ, they were shining the sword. Imagine this, picture it in your mind like a film. And Guru Teg Bahadur Ji laughed. Guru Teg Bahadur Ji hasse. Guru Ji said, "Ek hi karda?" Guru Ji said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm sharpening this sword that's going to take your cease, that's going to take your head." And Guru Teg Bahadur Ji khed ke hasse. Guru Teg Bahadur Ji starts laughing. The Guru Teg Bahadur Ji kende eh jehdi teg, this sword, one day this sword was in my hand. Mainu teg chalauni bhi aundy a. Guru Teg Bahadur Ji said, I know how to use this sword too. In the battle of Kartarpur with their father, Guru Teg Bahadur Ji fought in the 4th battle of Kartarpur with their father. Not a lot of people know this. In the battle of Kartarpur with their father, Guru Har Gobind Singh Ji, they fought and they used that sword. Kende ek din kende main teg eh chalai si, ta kenda drave na mainu de is teg na chamka ke. Guruji said, don't try and put fear on me by shining this sword. He said, because one day that sword was in my hand. Kende mainu chalauni vi aundy a teg, ta kende cheta rakhi eh teg mainu mere sees utte leni vi aundy a. One day I was taking heads of the others with this sword, but today I know how to receive this sword too. Do not scare me with this sword, because my name is Teg Bahadur. Sangat Jiyo, Sama Gujarda gaya, Sama time passed, and Guru Teg Bahadur Ji Maharaj apna sees juda karke ta Bal Gobind Rai Gurgaddi te Birajman hue. Guru Gobind Singh Ji, who at that time, at the age of 9, was called Gobind Rai, sat in the throne of their Pitaji. And their father tested, when Guru Teg Bahadur Ji tested Guru Gobind Singh Ji, Guru Teg Bahadur Ji said to Gobind Rai, kende o Gobind Rai, kende Kashmir de Pandit aaye ne. So the Pandits, the Brahmins have come from Kashmir and they're asking that somebody needs to sacrifice their life to save their dharam. And Guru Gobind Singh Ji, Gobind Rai at the age of 9, imagine at the age of 9, said, "Oh Pitaji, oh Father, who bigger than you, who better than you to go and sacrifice your life for these people?" And Guru Teg Bahadur Ji said something. Guru Teg Bahadur Ji said, kende Gobind Rai, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਤੇਰੇ ਸਿਰ ਉੱਪਰ ਤੇਰਾ ਬਾਪ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਹੇਗਾ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਤੇਰੇ ਸਿਰ ਉੱਪਰ ਤੇਰਾ ਬਾਪ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਹੇਗਾ. Guru Teg Bahadur Ji said to Guru Gobind Singh Ji, to Gobind Rai, said, above your head no longer will you have a father. And Gobind Rai had this twinkle in their eyes. had that radiance on their face. And they said, "Oh Father, I will be one. I will be just one without a father. But you imagine, Father, you imagine the hundreds of children that you will save from being fatherless. I'm just one. I will sacrifice myself for not having a father, but oh Pitaji, oh Guru Tegh Bahadur, you will keep the fathers on so many thousands and thousands of children will have their father because of you. But I am willing to sacrifice this." Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji knew that he is ready for the Guru Gaddi. He's ready to take the throne at the age of 9. Sangte Sama Guzarda Gya, the time continued passing. And the Sama Guzarda Gya, time passed. And a Sama came that the Hill Raja of Anandpur Sahib, they once came to Guru Gobind Singh Ji and they said to Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, they said, "Bless us with the Khande Bhatti da Amrit." They said, "Oh Guru Gobind Singh Ji, bless us with the Khande Bhatti da Amrit." The Hill Rajas, the kings of the hills, of the 22 hills around Anandpur Sahib, came and approached Guru Gobind Singh Ji and said, "Bless us with this Amrit." And Guru Gobind Singh Ji said, "You will definitely be blessed with this Khande Bhatti da Amrit. But the deal in the house of the Guru is that everybody drinks from the same bowl, that everybody drinks from the same bhatta, no matter what caste or creed, no matter what gender." And these Rajas and these kings, the Hindu kings, the Rajput kings, said to Guru Gobind Singh Ji, "This is not possible. We cannot drink from the same bowl as the Shudra, as the low caste of the untouchables. Prepare something for us separately. Prepare an Amrit da Bhatta for us that we will not have to share with these low caste." And Guru Gobind Singh Ji hasse. Kende eh Guru Nanak de ghar di maryada nahi. Kende this is not the way of Guru Nanak's house. If you want this Amrit, you will drink it from the same bowl as whoever enters this darbar. So Sangat Jiyo, as time passed, these Rajas that Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji saved, जिन्हों ने बंधनों तो कटाया सिगा, छेवें पातशाह ने ग्वालियर के किले तो, those same Rajas that Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji gave their life for, today betrayed Guru Gobind Singh Ji. Because they knew that Guru Gobind Singh Ji was becoming so powerful. So they betrayed Guru Gobind Singh Ji. And they got in touch with the Shah Sarkar, with the Mughal Emperor. And what happened eventually was that Anandpur Sahib de Kile te घेरा पाया गया. इन्हू बंद ही कर दे, कोई बंद कर दो, नहीं बंद. तो समा बीतदा गया. What happened was, Sangat Jiyo, that in the dharti of Anandpur Sahib, the Kila, the fortress of Anandpur Sahib, उत्थे घेरा पाया गया. So what happened was, where Guru Gobind Singh Ji blessed the Amrit to us at the Gurdwara Sahib called Keskar Sahib, today such a day came on that same Pavitra Dharti, in that immaculate place of Anandpur Sahib. What happened? That the Rajas, the Hindu Rajas, the Hindu kings and the Mughals surrounded Anandpur Sahib, and battles went on for months and months and months and months. Sangat Jiyo, ek sama eho jiha siga. There was such a time, there was such a moment that in Anandpur Sahib, Guru Gobind Singh Ji had this hathi, had an elephant called a Prashadi hathi, had an elephant that had so much love for Guru Gobind Singh Ji. There was an elephant that would take the Chaur Sahib, as you see Penji with the Chaur Sahib today, On the takhat, on the throne sits Guru Granth Sahib Ji. On the throne like this sat Guru Gobind Singh Ji, like a darbar like this. Guru Gobind Singh Ji sat on the takhat, and there was an elephant and hathi that would take the Chaur Sahib and wave the Chaur over Guru Gobind Singh Ji. That hathi with his son, what he would do is, he would take water and he would put it in a bowl for Guru Gobind Singh Ji. He would wash the charan, he would wash the feet of Guru Gobind Singh Ji, an elephant would. So much pyar. But Sangate, Sama Ehoja Aya, in that same place, if you go to Anandpur Sahib today, there's Keskar Sahib on one side where Guru Gobind Singh Ji blessed the Amrit. On the opposite side, there is the Killa, the fortress, where Guru Gobind Singh Ji was in these months. The battles went on for years. These battles went on for 2-3 years, but such a time came when all the food, when all the ration was stopped from going inside. And the Sikhs, some of the Singhs would escape and get hold of whatever food they could get hold of. But Sangte fe ehoja vi samaya, but such a time came eventually when there was no food left. And there were 6 months when the Singhs, imagine this now, not just the Singhs, because remember Guru Sahib's children were in this fortress. All the Panj Pyare, Guru Sahib's wives, Mata Sahib Kaur was there, Mata Sundari was there, Mata Gujar Kaur was there. Everybody was in this fortress. And 6 months had passed and there was no food was let into the fortress. So what the Singhs started doing was, they started taking the leaves of the trees and they started boiling the leaves of the trees, and they would survive off whatever they could. They would take the shilke off the drakat. They would take the wood, the barks off the trees, and they would boil them and eat them. This is what they would survive off, Sangat Ji. Singha de sareer kamjor ho gaye. The Singhs got weak. The children were getting weak. On some of the Singhs, there were merely bones left to their body. And that same hathi, Sangat Ji, that Guru Gobind Singh Ji loved dearly, that same prashadi hathi that one day would over Guru Gobind Singh Ji's cease, over Guru Gobind Singh Ji's head would wave the chaur. That same hathi today, due to hunger, tarf ke Sangat Ji, Guru Gobind Singh Ji agge mar gaya. That same hathi today, in front of Guru Gobind Singh Ji, tarf ke suffering, he died because of hunger. That same hathi. Many Singhs, out of hunger, started to die. But the Singhs still kept high spirits. They kept Chardi Kala. They were still reading the Bani, and they were still in high spirits. Not concerned about what their bodies were going through. Not concerned about being starved. And these emperors, these Mughal emperors, these hill Rajas, they thought that due to hunger they would give up. They would leave the fortress and say, we give up and we have lost. But they don't know that these things, they don't know what they read in the morning. They don't know that they get up in the morning and says, Ketya dukh, bhukh, sadmar, epi, daat, teri, daatar. Ketya dukh. Guru Nanak Dev Ji said, many ketya dukh, many are hungry, are going hungry. Ketya dukh, bhukh. Ketya dukh, dukh is pain. Many are suffering in pain. Ketya dukh, bhukh. Many are hungry. Sadmar. Sadmar means, when you think something keeps going wrong in my life, Sadmar, means Sada vaste maar pai jani. This means when something always goes wrong in your life. And look at Guru's concept of life. A lot of people put this pankti, a lot of people put this line up on their new houses in India. Not the second line. Ketyan dukh, bhukh, sadmar, epi, daat, teri, daatar. Epi daat. Epi daat means even this is a gift of yours, oh giver of gifts. Even this is a gift of yours. People have this written on their houses saying Epi daat, that this is a gift of yours. But nahi sangto, Guru Nanak di bani samjho, padho. Guru Nanak said, even pain, even hunger, even to be
to be struck down all the time, even this is your gift. And the Mughal emperors didn't know that this is what these things used to read in the morning. Every morning, Sangat ji, aavo padho, ketya dukh, phook, sat maar, eh pi daat, teri daatar. When you read these lines tomorrow, think what it means. If we've got a little cut and we think the whole, every God, what's happening to me. If something's going wrong in our lives, if we think we're suffering with mental pain, but no, listen to these panktiya tomorrow. Guru saying, ketya dukh, you may be suffering in pain. Phook, you may be going hungry. Sadmar, you may think that it's always going wrong for me. But say, oh no, Guru Nanak, epi daat, even this is a gift of yours. Why is this a gift? Because dukha, daru. Because why? Because dukh is in a medicine. Sukha, rog, pya, because pleasure is a disease. Pleasure is a disease because it takes me away from you. So they don't know this is what the Singhs read. Guru Ramdas Ji's Bani, they says, Je sukh dehe ta tujhe aradhi. If you give me sukh, if you give me pleasure, I will think of you. I will meditate upon you. Je sukh dehe ta tujhe aradhi. I think of only you, Guru Granth Sahib Ji. I think of only you, my Lord. When I am in pleasure, when I am going through, when I am in joy. But listen to the next line. Je sukh dehta tujhe aradhi, dukh pi tujhe te ai. Even in pain, dukh pi tujhe te ai. I think of you. No one else but you. Je bhukh dehe, if you give me hunger, Guru Ramdas Ji's Bani. Je bhukh dehe ta it hi raja. Dukh vich sukh manai. Aida Bani padya karo sikho. Feel the Bani. When you read Bani, feel as if Guru is there sitting with you and talking to you. And Guru is saying, Je bhukh dehe, if he gives you hunger. Je bhukh dehe ta it hi raja. That I am still fulfilled. Why? Because I haven't forgot you. Because I have you in my thoughts. Jiddan tu visar gaya, samajh lo ta sab kuch visar gaya. That day that you separate from me, everything has gone. Maharaj Ji says, Guru Arjan Dev Ji in the start of Barama Kirta, who is responsible? Who is responsible of this separation from Akal Purkh of Waheguru? And Guru says, Kirt karma ke vichre. You are separated from Waheguru because of our own actions. Kirt, karma. Karma means actions. Kirt is what we're doing. Kirt karam, the actions that we are doing. Kirt karma ke vichre. We are separated due to our own actions. Kirt karam ke vichre. Aha. But Maharaj Ji always gives us hope. They never leave us standing. Kar kirpa. Maharaj says, please do kirpa on me. Please bless us with your grace. Please be merciful on me. Kar kirpa melho Ram. Kar kirpa melho. Please reunite with me. Because what are we, Sangat Ji? Have we ever thought what we are? We are just a droplet from the ocean. The ocean is a Akal Purkh. And we are mere droplets of that ocean. And we are separated. When that droplet forms itself a separate name from the ocean. No longer do we call it the ocean, we call it a droplet. But Sangat Ji, hagata darayai hai na, hagata pani hai na. But it's still the ocean, Sangat Ji. All it is, we are separated due to our actions, due to our ego. So, Sangat Ji, do benti to Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Hath vich pallada karke. Pallada is your begging bowl. Take out your begging bowls and let's beg to Guru Granth Sahib Ji. I'll sing the line once and everybody ask Guru Granth Sahib Ji, be merciful to me and reunite me with you. Kirt karam ke vichhade kar kirpa melho Ram. We're going to sing kar kirpa, kar. Sangat Ji bolo kar kirpa melho Ram. So we're going to sing Data Ji kar kirpa melho Ram, kirt karam ke vichhade. So appa and pallada apna hath Guru Granth Sahib Ji agge philaiye. Put your begging bowls out to Guru Granth Sahib Ji and says, be merciful to me today, Guru Granth Sahib Ji, and reunite me with you. So aao boliye appa. Pehla das bolega, fir sari sangat कर कृपा मेलो राम जी कर कृपा मेलो राम कर कृपा
मेलो राम जी कर कृपा मेलो राम
कर कृपा मेलो राम जी कर कृपा मेलो राम
कर कृपा मेलो राम जी कर कृपा मेलो राम
किरत कर्म के विछड़े किरत कर्म के विछड़े
किरत कर्म के बिछड़े किरत कर्म के बिछड़े
किरत कर्म के विछड़े किरत कर्म के विछड़े
किरत कर्म के बिछड़े किरत कर्म के बिछड़े
कर कृपा मेलो राम जी कर कृपा मेलो राम
कर कृपा मिलो राम जी कर कृपा मिलो राम
कर कृपा मेलो राम जी कर कृपा मेलो राम
कर कृपा मिलो राम जी कर कृपा मिलो राम
किरत कर्म के विछड़े किरत कर्म के विछड़े
किरत कर्म के बिछड़े किरत कर्म के बिछड़े
कर कृपा मेलो राम जी कर कृपा मेलो राम
कर कृपा मिलो राम जी कर कृपा मिलो राम
कर कृपा मेलो राम जी कर कृपा मेलो राम
कर कृपा मिलो राम जी कर कृपा मिलो राम
कर कृपा मेलो राम जी कर कृपा मेलो राम
कर कृपा मिलो राम जी कर कृपा मिलो राम
संगत जी गुरु अर्जन देव जी ने यह बाणी उच्चारी when we read Gurbani connect with Gurbani think of Guru Arjan Dev ji sitting there in front of us and talking to us when we read Japji Sahib in the morning think ऐदा समझिया करो कि जिस तरह के गुरु नानक अपने नाल गल्ला करदे आ गुरु नानक अपने नाल गल्ला करदे आ think that Guru Nanak is sitting there and speaking to us this is how we should read Gurbani the Sangat ji किले विच घेरा पिया होया the killa is completely surrounded there is no way out there is no way for the Sikhs to go ਤਾਂ ਕੀ ਹੋਇਆ ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ ਤਾਂ ਅੰਦਰੋਂ that ਬਾਹਰੋਂ a message came to Guru Gobind Singh Ji and they said to Guru Gobind Singh Ji that the Mughal emperors are saying leave the fortress because there's no way out there's no way for you to go and there's no way for us to get in so why don't you just leave the fortress and now what they were saying is that instead of you saying that you've lost that you can leave the fortress and we won't say anything to you we won't attack you there will be no battle you just leave this fortress and leave and all the Sikhs all the Singhs they all had that sense of they thought we've got some hope you know that we can survive this and they said to Guru Gobind Singh Ji oh Guru Gobind Singh Ji look it's all worked out come on let's leave the fortress and Guru Gobind Singh Ji said nahi bachcho and Guru Gobind Singh Ji said no he said don't trust them twice they sent a message often you hear about the time when they swore an oath on the Quran but before that before swearing an oath on the Quran they asked Maharaj to leave the fortress without swearing an oath and all the Sikhs said chalo ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਚਲਿਏ ਛੁਟਕਾਰਾ ਪਾਈਏ ਇਥੋਂ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਿੱਖੋ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਤੇ ਭਰੋਸਾ ਨਾ ਕਰੋ don't trust them they said but no they're saying they won't attack us ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਿੱਖੋ ਭਰੋਸਾ ਨਾ ਕਰੋ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ okay I'll tell you what to do Maharaj said get a gaddi which in them days was like a plank of wood with 4 wheels like a cart Maharaj said get a cart all the horses and all the other animals that had passed away Maharaj said collect their bones because they had been there for so many months there was just mere bones left Maharaj said collect their bones put it out onto the cart says once you put this out onto the cart Maharaj said then cover it with expensive clothing ਕਰਕੇ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਰੇਸ਼ਮੀ ਕੱਪੜੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਅੰਦਰ Maharaj said get your reshmi ਕੱਪੜੇ get your clothes and get a few gene get a few ornaments and cover all these had of the pasu with these reshmi kapde, with these expensive clothes. And Singh and all the Sikhs are thinking, all the Bibiyan Bhainan are thinking, and all the Mahal Guruji's wives are thinking, what are these games Guru Gobind Singh Ji are playing today? Maharaj said, look, don't worry. They said, they've asked us to leave. And first tell them that we want to give some of our stuff. Our clothes, our kapde, all the things that we need for survival. First tell them to look after this and take this away. So what Maharaj did this, they took this cart, they called one of the Mughals and they took the cart away. And Maharaj kende, "Hon singo tamasha dekhiyo." Maharaj said, now you watch what happens to the Sikhs. As they're taking this cart away, the Mughals looked and ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਮਨ ਉੱਥੇ ਬਿਕਾਰਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਫਸ ਗਿਆ. ਉੱਥੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਮਨ ਸੋਚਣ ਲੱਗਾ, and they started thinking, you know what, these clothes must be so expensive. ਤਾਂ ਉਹ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਨਾ ਜਾਨਵਰ ਵਾਂਗੂ ਟੁੱਟ ਕੇ ਪਏ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਦੇ ਸਮਾਨ ਨੂੰ. And they started robbing Maharaj's things. And Maharaj ਉੱਥੇ ਹੱਸਣ. Maharaj was there watching them and laughing. Maharaj ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਸਿੱਖੋ ਦੇਖ ਲਿਆ. This is their trust. And they've betrayed us already. Before even anybody else has left, they've robbed all our things. And when they took off all the clothes and they saw underneath ਕਿ ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤਾਂ ਪਸ਼ੂ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਹੱਡਿਆ, when they saw this is full of bones, ਤਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸ਼ਰਮ ਬਹੁਤ ਆਈ, and they felt very embarrassed of what they've done. So what happened after this was, Aurangzeb found out what's going on, the Mughal emperor, and he sent a letter to Guru Gobind Singh Ji apologizing and said, apologize for what they have done, and I promise this will not happen again. If you leave the fortress, nobody will attack you. So Singhana kya, Maharaj, look, the emperor himself now, he's written a letter to us. We can surely trust this now. We should leave the fortress because we're going to die of hunger anyway. Maharaj ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਸਿੱਖੋ ਬਸ 2 ਹਫ਼ਤੇ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਆ. Maharaj said just 2 weeks, just wait 2 weeks. ਤਾਂ ਸਿੱਖ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਹੁਣ ਔਖਾ ਆ. They said it's very difficult now. ਤਾਂ ਸਬਰ ਕਰ ਲਿਆ. Basically they waited a few more months. A few months later they thought, what should we do now? And this is when you normally hear the story of the oaths. The Muslims, the Mughals, they swore an oath on the Quran, and the Hindus, what they did was they got atta and they made a gaw out of the atta. So they made a murti, a sculpture of their sacred cow that they puj, that they highly respect. And Hinduਆਂ ਨੇ ਗਾਂ ਦੀ ਸਹੁੰ ਖਾਧੀ ਤਾਂ ਮੁਸਲਮਾਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੁਰਾਨ ਦੀ ਸਹੁੰ ਖਾਧੀ ਕਿ if you leave this fortress we will not say anything to you. And when this came, even then Maharaj Ji said, Bharosa na karo. They said, don't trust these oaths. And the Singh said, but this is their dharam now. This is who they believe in. This is their isht. This is their everything. If we do not trust this, then what can we trust? Eventually, Maharaj said, okay, we'll leave the fortress. When Maharaj leaves this fortress, what they did was, they made jathe. And they made char jathe. They made 4 different groups. When they left the fortress. So, if you now imagine, there's about a few hundred of them. Maharaj has got them all together, got all their things together, and they've made 4 separate groups. In front, they've put Pyara Daya Singh, Pyara Dharam Singh, out of the Panch Pyare. So the first Panch Pyara by Daya Singh, and then by Dharam Singh, they've made them the Jathedar, they've made them the leaders at the front as they're leaving the fortress. With them are the Singhs. In the middle on a horse is Mata Gujri, is Mata Gujr Kaur with the 2 small Shahzade. Mata ne 2 छोटे Shahzade ਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਸੀਨੇ ਨਾਲ ਗਲਵਖੜੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਾ ਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਘੋੜੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਬੈਠੇ ਆ with the 2 Shahzade. And also in the middle is the 2 Mahals, 2 wives, Mata Sahib Kaur, Mata Sundari, and with Mata Sundari is Jathedar Bhai Mani Singh, who was Shaheed, jinne band katwaya. Bhai Mani Singh was with the wives of Guru Gobind Singh Ji. So now in the front is the Panj Pyare, is the two Pyare. In the middle is Guru Gobind Singh Ji's wives and Mata Gujar Kaur with the two sons. In the back, Guru Gobind Singh Ji appointed the eldest son, Baba Ajit Singh. Shahzada Ajit Singh, the eldest son, who was of the age of 18 years old at this point. Sangat Ji, this is something very interesting to look at and think about. If we really imagine now, if we take our thoughts back to this time, and as they're walking out of this gadi now, we might think, Sangat Ji, try and concentrate, try and take this in. This is a very interesting point in this, of the leaving of the fortress. At the back of these groups, they have appointed a Sikh, which is Bhai Mani Singh's son, Bhai Uday Singh, and Bhai Baba Ajit Singh, which is Guru Gobind Singh's eldest son, at the back as they're walking out. This point is absolutely mind-blowing. Guru Gobind Singh Ji has put this son at the back, and the Sangat at that point might have started to think that he's putting his sons at the back and maybe he's going to try and save their family's life. So that's why Baba Ajit Singh's at the back. But Guru Gobind Singh Ji is ahead of everybody. Guru Gobind Singh Ji no Sangat Jiyo, you're not going to find a father like Guru Gobind Singh Ji anywhere. Sangat Ji, Guru Gobind Singh Ji वगैरह पिता किते नहीं मिलना एहो जिहा त्यागी. And Guru Gobind Singh Ji puts Baba Ajit Singh at the back. Why? Because he's saying that कदी ओह दिन ना मैनू देखना पवे कि कोई कह देवे कि इन्हें अपने पुत्रां नू तां अपने परिवार नू बचाया. Guru Gobind Singh Ji said, never do I want to see that day that the Singhs, the Sikhs and the Sangat says that he protected his family and he put his family at the back. But why did Guru Gobind Singh Ji put Baba Ajit Singh at the back? Because when they left the fortress, Guru Gobind Singh Ji knew that I've not put my son at the back, I've put him at the front. Because Guru Gobind Singh Ji knew that the Mughals were going to attack us from the back. So he said, if anyone goes down first, it will be my son. Guru Gobind Singh Ji Sangat Ji said, Panth vase, main ujjada, man chao kanera. So listen to these words, these lines. I want you to memorize these lines from today. I want there to be echoing in your ears. Guru Gobind Singh Ji Sangat Ji said, Panth vase. Vase means that I want the Panth, I want you. Guru Gobind Singh Ji pointed at you, Sangat Ji. Today, think about where we are in our lives. He pointed at you, he says, Panth vase. He says, I want my Panth to remain. And Guru Gobind Singh Ji said, Main ujjada. Guru Gobind Singh Ji said, Mera kuch na rave. Mera sab kuch lut jave. Guru Gobind Singh Ji said, I want everything of mine to be destroyed. Everything of mine, my family, to be destroyed. But I want you to remain. He says, Panth vase main ujjada man chao kanera. And he says, then my mind will be in kanera, and it will be in complete joy. He says, I will destroy myself, but I will put everything in you. He's interested. He has given Sikhi to you, Sangate. And we've got to think today, where are we? He put Baba Ajit Singh at the back. He's saying, Sangate, don't think he's at the back. I've put him at the front because they're going to attack us. Tomorrow morning, Guru Gobind Singh Ji knew they're going to attack us from the back. So my Ajit Singh is at the front. So if anyone becomes Shaheed, so if anyone goes down first, it will be my son. They left the fortress. They left the fortress and they're traveling. And they've got to a place called Kirtpur Sahib. जिथे छेवें पातशाह ने जगह बसाई उत्थे अपने वड्डे वड्डेयारियां दे जगह उत्ते मत्था टेकिया नमस्कार किता नतमस्तक किता. They paid their respects at Gurdwara Kirtpur Sahib, where today the Sikhs take the ashes when a Sikh person passes away. Uthon Nanke na Sangat Ji, when they passed Kirtpur Sahib, as they were approaching the Nadi, the river bank of Sarsa Nadi, me pan lag paya bahut. The rain was very strong. The wind was blowing. ਤਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਹਨੇਰੀ ਵਗ ਰਹੀ ਆ and ਸਰਸਾ ਇੱਕ ਨਾਗਨੀ ਦੇ ਰੂਪ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਪਣਾ ਮੂੰਹ ਅੱਡ ਕੇ ਖੜੀ ਆ ਉੱਥੇ and the Sarsa river is standing there like a snake with its mouth wide open and behind them is the Mughal emperors now that said, you know what, they're not in that fortress anymore, let's go and get them, they're out on the battlefield. So they betrayed and they went against their words. They went against their promises that were made. Their hands, they put on the Quran. Their hands, the Hindus' hands went on the cow that they made and promised that we will not attack you. And within moments, within hours, the betrayal started. And they've started following the Gurus. They've started following the Guru's family. And Baba Baljit Singh at the back. Sangat Ji, Utho awaz ai. They heard an echo, a voice. Because you remember they're all split up. So at the back is Baba Baljit Singh. And Baba Baljit Singh now, Shahzada Ajit Singh, the eldest son, he hears a voice. And the voice is Apne Shastar set do. He hears a voice saying, throw your weapons away. You have no chance now. There is merely hundreds of you and there's hundreds of thousands of us. You're not in your fortress now. You have no chance. Throw your weapons. The Baba Ajit Singh ne awaaz diti lalakariya. Singh gajjaya. ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਸਿੰਘ. ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਗੁਰੂ ਦੇ ਸੁਪੁੱਤਰ. ਇਹਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਗੁਰੂ ਦੇ ਲਾਡਲੇ ਲਾਲ. And Baba Ajit Singh ne awaaz diti. And Chardi Kala de Pratik vich. And Baba Ajit Singh shouted in complete high spirits. And he roared like a lion. And he said, ਇਹ ਸ਼ਾਸਤਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਿੱਟਣ ਵਾਲੇ. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਇਹ ਸ਼ਾਸਤਰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪਿਤਾ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸ਼ਾਸਤਰ ਪਨਾਏ ਆ ਨਾ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਾਹ ਬਾਹਰ ਨਿਕਲਣ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਹੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਸ਼ਾਸਤਰ ਸਿੱਟਾਂਗੇ. He said, these shastar, these weapons, we will only throw onto the ground when these breaths are gone. These are the weapons that our father Guru Gobind Singh Ji has given to us. These will not leave our hands until these breaths are out of this body. And Baba Baljit Singh said, Aao jane mardane jang vich jang karna asi tayar hain. We are ready to take battle. Approaching, and another thing, the rule of the battle, nobody attacks from the back. They've gone against this rule. Nobody fights after the sun has set. They've gone against this rule. Amrit Vela is approaching instead. The time is now about 12 o'clock. They left on the night of the 19th of December, which is on Monday. And now the 20th of December has approached Amrit Vela. So it's approaching 3 a.m. in the morning now. And Bhai Daya Singh finds out what's happening. One of the Panch Pyare finds out what's going on. And says, Baba Baljit Singh says, go and ask father, get the orders, what are we to do? Apa ki kariye hun? And they're running to. And they are running to Guru Gobind Singh Ji, Bhai Daya Singh is the Panch Pyara, and says, oh Guru Gobind Singh Ji, oh master. Said, what shall we do? Said, they have come to attack us from the back. They've betrayed us. They've gone against their words. Guru Gobind Singh Ji with no shock. And Guru Gobind Singh Ji, they said, Bhai Daya Singh said, ki kariye? They said, what shall we do? Baba Baljit Singh comes running, says, Pitaji, oh Father Guru Gobind Singh Ji, hukam, please give us your order, what shall we do? And what does Guru Gobind Singh Ji do? Guru Gobind Singh Ji takes out what? Guru Gobind Singh Ji takes out a saj. Guru Gobind Singh Ji take out the stringed instrument. And Guru Gobind Singh Ji says, Mera hukam, sangte, Amrit Vela, Sach Nau, Vadiyai Vichar, Amrit Vele da Sama, Guru Nanak Paatshah da hukam, Aao sangte betho ta asa diwar de kirtan vich judo. Bhai Daya Singh said, Maharaj, no, they've come to attack us, Maharaj. We have to protect the whole Sikh Panth, we have to protect Mata Gujri, we have to protect Mata Sundari. And said, Maharaj, I'm sorry to ask again. Maybe you've heard wrong. Bhai Daya Singh says, Maharaj, what shall we do? Which shastra shall we take? Shall we use our arrows first? And Maharaj he says, no. They said, use the shastra, use the weapon of Asa ki war. Wah wah. Pinni ranadiye chamkan tare. The tare, they are come out. And it is time to sing his praises. Guru Gobind Singh Ji said, oh Sikho, jo Amrit Vela khunj gaya. If we lose our Amrit Vela, we've lost anyway. Sikho, these are the things to learn. Maharaj is sitting there on the battlefield and saying, Balhari Guru Apne Deohari Sadwar. Guru Gobind Singh Ji sitting on that battlefield and saying, Jin Manaste Devte Kiye. This is what Guru Gobind Singh Ji is doing. They're sitting there and they're saying these panktiya again and again. Saying, Gurbin, Kor Andar. Je So Chanda Ugvahe. Je So. If 100 moons were to come out, Guru Gobind Singh Ji saying this in Asa ki war. They have come to attack. And Guru is saying, Je So Chanda Ugvahe. Even if the radiance of 100 So Chanda of Chandrama, of the moons were to come out and light the sky. Jai so chanda ugve suraj chade hajar, and there were thousands of suns to come out and give us that light. And Guru says, Jai so chanda ugve suraj chade hajar, ette chanan hundeya gurbin kor andar. This says, even with all this radiance, he says, without the Guru, there is deep darkness. Guru Gobind Singh Ji says, Amrit Vela ni shadana. This is Sikho, if we leave our Amrit Vela, if we leave this time to sing his praises, we've lost anyway. We might as well be dead. Kende fe ki fayda, kende jo Guru Nanak di bani nahi padhi, kende Amrit Vele jaag ke. Aha, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, udron sarkaran, udron ho chadai karke aaye, to Guru kenda bani padho. Guru ne Sarsa de nadi utte bhi bani da sahara nahi chhadya Sikho. ਹੁਣ ਆਪਾਂ ਸੋਚੀਏ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਿੰਨੀ ਕੁ ਬਾਣੀ ਦਾ ਆਸਰਾ ਲੈਨੇ ਓਟ ਲੈਨੇ ਆ ਬਾਣੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਛੱਡਣੀ ਜੋ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਹੋ ਜਾਵੇ because there's one thing that will always go with us, that's Guru's teaching. Everything else can drown, can be set on fire, but there's one thing, Guru's bachan, gur ka bachan base ji nale. Ji is our soul. His bachan, gur ka bachan, his word will go with our soul. Gur ka bachan base ji nale, jal nahi doobe. Guru's bachan, Guru's teaching, not the ocean cannot drown the Guru's teaching. Jal nahi doobe, taskar nahi leve. There is no thief out there that can take away and run away with the Guru's bachan. Because base ji nale, it's with your soul. Taskar nahi leve, pahe na sake jale, no fire, there is no fire out there that can burn Guru's bachan away. Sangte Sarsa Nadi utte pahunche, and time is coming to 9 o'clock, so we're going to continue the Itihas tomorrow. And they've reached Sarsa Sangate, you know the Itihas that we're going to listen to tomorrow, it will pull the strings of your hearts. And we can't even imagine, you know, the night, you know, the last night before the two Shahzade, Baba Ajit Singh and Baba Jujhar Singh. We're going to look through Baba Jujhar Singh when they were born. We're going to look at how they were named. And we're going to look at their childhood. And we're going to look at the last night of when Guru Gobind Singh Ji stayed up all night whilst the Singhs were asleep in Chamkor Gadi, and the conversations and what Guru Gobind Singh Ji was doing when they was looking over their Sikhs sleeping. And these are heart-pulling bachan. That night, Sangte, it's absolutely, you can't imagine it. And on Christmas Eve, when everybody's celebrating Christmas Eve, on Christmas Day, on Boxing Day, these 3 days are the 3 days when the Shote Shahzade were in the Thanda Burja, were in the cold store locked away. These 3 days, Boxing Day was the day of the Shahidi, Christmas Day was their last day with their grandmother, sitting in her laps. And Sangte, you know, there was somebody said that when your head warms up, you're able to rest and sleep. Just imagine Mata Ji, Mata Gujar Kaur, she's now old. She's taken the two grandchildren, one's 5 and one's 7. And she's taken them both and she's put Baba Fateh Singh's head in her godi, in her right lap, to warm their heads up so that they can fall asleep. She's taken Baba Zorawar Singh's head in her left lap and she's put both of the laps in her godi and she's warming them up because they're in a cold store, saying that Putro, from tomorrow you will not sit in my laps like this, but instead you will have the privilege to go and sit in Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji's laps in Sachkhand. He said, today you are in your grandmother's laps, but tomorrow you will be in the laps of your grandfather. And when, just to make one more point, there's a Muslim writer and he writes that if there's one person on this earth that has got complete faith in the Quran, that has got complete faith in the sacred cow, that has got complete faith in the Hindu scriptures, and he writes, this is a Muslim writing this, and he goes, that's Guru Gobind Singh Ji. He goes, because the ones that read this Quran went back on their word. The ones that pray to the sacred cow, they went back on their word. He goes, but there was that one Guru Gobind Singh that he gave all his faith into their scriptures. And Sangaji, this is very interesting because Guru Gobind Singh Ji already knew what was going to happen. There is nobody on this earth that can